We're back, and you're listening to Executive Leaders Radio, broadcast from the Fairfax County Chamber of Commerce. This is your host, Peter Schwartz. I'm joined by my co-host, David Taylor, with Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney. And for this segment, we have Robert Massey, who's the owner and president of a company called BrightStar Care. What is BrightStar Care, Robert?
Peter, BrightStar Care is a private duty home care agency. We provide assistance to people who want to stay in their home but need some sort of help to do so, whether it's companion care or personal care or even skilled nursing care. We provide the services so they can stay in their home.
And how long has this company been in business?
Well, BrightStar has been in business as an organization for about 10 years. This agency just opened 30 days ago here in Northern Virginia.
Your agency, the
agency,
business that you
correct.
just started.
Yeah, we're in Fairfax, Virginia, and we're 30 days old.
So how'd you get the idea to do this, and why was it important to you?
Well, I'd been in corporate America for 30 years. I've been with IBM, Deloitte Consulting. I was senior vice president of a large IT firm, and I just stopped enjoying what I was doing, quite frankly. And I grew up thinking that was important.
So you could have went into banking or making boats. Why this?
Yeah. Well, you know, about the time that I figured we wanted to do something else, my mother-in-law fell and broke her hip. She was in Tampa, Florida, and we had to find a way to help her stay in her home. And when we started investigating it, we found that there really wasn't much information out there, that we had great difficulty in finding providers, and that the information we were getting was conflicting, didn't know how much it cost or what the options were, and it was a very painful experience. And coming out of that experience, we finally did find care for her. We realized that there was just an opportunity to provide better care and to get the information and educate the market on how to help people stay at home.
Right. And so that was, and you have a partner in the business, right?
I do. It's my wife. Yeah.
So you're sitting around the table one night having a glass of wine and you're bored to tears and you say, let's start a business.
Yeah, well, my father always said, do what you enjoy, and I came home and told my wife that I was no longer enjoying what I was doing, and she knew that was code for we were going to do something else. And she was very supportive. You know, it was an opportunity we found to come back to Virginia, where I'm from. And my family's been here for 300 years, and we wanted to get back here, and this was a kind of an opportunity to do that and to run our own show. And so I lied to her and told her it would be easy, and we came back and started the agency.
Your family's been here 300 years?
It has, yeah.
So tell us about the beginnings.
The beginnings? That would be Peter Massey in 1678, I believe. He came over, probably kicked out of England, like so many at the time, and came over and in New Kent County, and we've been in Virginia ever since.
Any interesting stories that you like to tell about the family lineage?
Yeah, well, 300 years you're involved as a family in almost everything that happens in the country. So I guess, you know, I guess Major General Thomas Massey, probably the most illustrious of the family, was a Major General for George Washington during the war, was at Yorktown and led troops there, and at the end of the war, he was given a land grant and founded Massey's Mill, a small town that is about as big as this table, actually, in Nelson County.
So how old were you when you realized I have this big, gigantic family legacy?
Well, you kind of grow up knowing it. There's a big certificate that hangs on the wall from the Society of Cincinnati, which was the society that Washington formed and that Thomas Massey was in right after the war. And you hear the stories from the time you're 3 or 4, so you know who you are every step of the way. And
did you feel like you had to measure up to something early on?
Not really. You kind of knew who you were, and the biggest thing was, what were you going to do that was going to make a mark, right?
Yeah.
You always. But my dad was an entrepreneur. He was in the Greatest Generation, 2 wars. He owned and ran a quarry that has been in the family for 100 years. So, you know, I kind of knew that being an entrepreneur was one way to make your mark, and starting the agency was kind of a nice way to do something I enjoyed doing as well as make my mark.
Did you work in the quarry?
I did as a kid. You know, you go and you dig ditches and you pour concrete and you do all of the things that you know the boss's son does, and he gets the worst job obviously every time. But
what did you take away from that experience?
That I did not enjoy being a quarryman mostly. It was a great job, you know, but both my dad and I agreed that it was probably not the career I was going to go into.
Right. So where did you go?
Well, I went to Washington University, came up to Washington afterward, and entered into finance and corporate America.
Why finance?
I don't know. I was a business administration major, and numbers appealed to me, and I liked outcomes. I've always liked outcomes and affecting outcomes. And in business, there are measurable outcomes, and you can affect them.
What's the measurable outcome in your current business?
Keeping people in their home. We know from all of the studies that are out that the outcomes, you live longer and you live better if you stay at home and are supported than if you are in a hospital or a nursing home.
How is that true?
Well,
what does that mean? You would think if you're in a hospital, you get better medical care, don't you?
Yeah, you could, but keep in mind medical technology has evolved so that almost most things that used to be done in a hospital can now be done at home. So medically, there really isn't a barrier, and technology continues to improve. The barrier, the thing that matters is your social network is bigger at home. Anxiety, depression incidence is much lower at home. You get out more at home. You are among people that you know, and you live longer and better.
But Robert, it sounds like that's more expensive, sending people into the home rather than having patients come to you. Is that a myth as well?
That is a myth. Paradoxically, it's actually about 40 to 50% less expensive over time to stay in your home and be supported appropriately. The reasons for that are that facilities are expensive places to be.
So how come I'm only hearing about this for the first time today?
Well, I think the studies are just now becoming available that actually prove this. I think there's been an intuitive understanding that this is probably true, but the ability to stay at home and the outcomes associated with them have not been really studied or observed or reported on until recently. And with the baby boomers coming through the aging process now, they will transform this particular phase, just like every other phase of life. They're now getting the word out. They want to stay home, and the studies are now being done.
Well, you told us in the green room that you can impact other age groups as well. Talk about that.
We do. Anyone who needs help to be at home, we help. We can provide services for. So kids who may be at home because of injury or disability, we provide those kinds of services, a companion all the way up through skilled.
How do you get paid?
Well, we have a number of different models depending on what's required. The basic is an hourly rate that we charge.
Reimbursed by insurance or what?
Can be reimbursed by insurance. Increasingly, long-term care insurance is stepping in and kind of beginning to people have policies now where they didn't in the past. We do not bill Medicare. We are what's known as private duty. We're not a Medicare agency. But we work with Medicare agencies as well.
So you start this business having spent your entire career up till now in technology, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, technology and sales and finance.
How is that going to turn out to be just the exactly right preparation for you looking back on it 5 years from now?
Well, I think the business model is one of the things. We've got the scale that's going to be brought to this business. You have to run it in a way that allows you to provide quality services on a consistent basis. And business does teach you how to do that.
What do you know you have to become as a CEO that you're not currently in order to be successful at this?
Well, I think I'm going to have to become a leader of people in a very different way than I've ever done before. So I'm going to be running a staff that's not a staff of salespeople or technologists, but of people who give care and who care.
Yeah.
And that's going to be new.
So how are you going to learn that?
Well, I mean, you're going to learn it by doing it. If you're interested in something, you want to do it, you enjoy doing it, I will study my business partners. I have 250 agencies in the country that I can learn from. Excuse me. So I'll learn from them along the way. It is a franchise model, so we have a great base of experience from which to draw. But reality is that experience is the best teacher, and we will do it one family at a time, and we'll learn.
So you're at this for 30 days. If we're back interviewing you this time next year, how would you like your first year to have gone?
Well, we measure our success in how many people we help stay at home. So that's the first measure. It translates into business measures on the back end of revenue and employees and so on and so forth. But I'm looking for 50 to 75 families that we've helped somebody stay at home and live longer and better because of that in the first year.
What's it like to work with your wife?
It's interesting. We commute. I traveled around the world all the time in my last 30 years, and now I travel nowhere except in the car with her to the office and back. But we probably, after 26 years of marriage, have found a common ground. And she runs the operations, and I run the rest of the business, the technology, the sales, the finance. And as long as I don't tread too much on her turf or she on mine, I think we'll be just fine. We're actually enjoying the first 30 days quite a bit.
That's fabulous. Where do you want to be 5 years from now?
I want to have a series of agencies that are operating well, that are doing that, and then I want to be able to start my nurses and my employees in agencies of their own. That's ultimately where I want to go, is to build this network so that we can meet the demand with agencies that I've helped found.
Is your father still with us and knows that you've taken this radical departure?
Yeah, he is. He's 85 years old, still down in Lynchburg.
What's he think of it?
Well, he calls me once a week to laugh at me. I tell him all my troubles, and he listens politely, and then he says, "Son, I've been there. You'll be just fine," and he hangs up.
Yeah. Well, if I was interviewing him, would he be surprised at your success?
I don't think he'd be surprised at my success. I think he'd be surprised maybe at the industry that I chose, because I came from corporate America. But and he might not admit it, but I think he'd be proud.
Yeah. If he was here, what would you want to say to him?
That he taught me pretty much everything I know. That when he told me when I was 8 years old or 10 years old as a paper boy, and do what you enjoy doing, and when you stop enjoying it, do something else, that I took his advice and that it's worked out well.
Good.
I think I'd like him to know that.
Well, I'll look forward to having you back in about 1.5 years to see how it's going.
I hope I come back, and if I can, I'll send my wife.
Okay. What's the website address, Robert?
It's www.brightstarcare.com.
Thank you. We've been speaking with Robert Massey, who's the owner and president of BrightStar Care. I'd like to thank my co-host, David Taylor, with the law firm of Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com, to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this business spot.